What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Dad Diary. I'm your host, Danny Jordan. Thrilled to be here today, live from my living room. Yes, we are all in the midst of quarantine. I'm sure you guys all are, wherever you're at around the world. Usually I record the Dad Diary. If you're familiar with the show, we do it out in my garage, in the Dad Den, as I call it. But the Spectrum Wi-Fi doesn't reach out to my garage that well. So for us to be able to do this live stream for you all today, however many of you are watching currently, I'm sure there's a number here. I'm new to this whole live stream platform situation, so you have to bear with me. But I do see you all commenting over there, so please feel free, comment away. Jerry Lynch, I see you're here. Welcome to the party. I think my wife is here as well. Hello, wifey. Love you. But you guys are not here to see me alone on the screen here today. You are here to meet, to watch, to listen, to engage with this incredible individual who is a very, very good friend of mine. You know him from his work on Mindhunter, I'm sure, where he starred alongside Jonathan Groff. He was very disturbing on that show, as you guys all know, looked just like Ed Kemper. I mean, come on. I don't know where to point on this thing. There it is. Thank you for the hearts, whoever sent the hearts. If you want to send some hearts, send some thumbs up. We'll take them. Anyway, we're figuring it out here on the fly as we go here at the Dad Diary. But anyway, I want to welcome in to the Dad Den, the living room, as it were, today for our first ever live broadcast. Please welcome one of my closest friends in the world, Mr. Cameron Britton. What's up, Cameron? Hold on, let me give you some hype music.
Ooh,
DJ air horn.
hype it up.
The crowd's going
Danny,
wild.
you're so good at this. You're such
Thank you.
It's great to see you at work.
Hey,
Hard
it's
at
great
work,
to be at
Cam.
work. Not a lot of people are getting to work right now, so I'm grateful to actually get to be, doing something, contributing, putting something out into the world. I want to thank you for dressing up for the show today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. This is my second best shirt.
Okay, I
Um,
appreciate. I mean, I've seen your
I can't,
wardrobe, so that's not
I can't find
that's
my
not too
best. I don't
far
know
off.
where it is.
So why are you? It looks like you're laying
But I'm
down. Are
laying on
you?
my stomach.
You're laying on your stomach? Why is that?
For,
Sorry, Cameron, you're breaking up a little bit. Go back.
well, I threw out my back.
Oh,
Yeah.
fun.
You got me?
I got you now. I got you. You're back.
Okay. I'm laying on my stomach because I threw out my back 2 days ago. It's kind of appropriate for the show. I was picking my son up and spinning him around and lifting him, and my back didn't feel so good. The next
I,
day it felt worse.
right.
And next thing you know, I was laying down all yesterday. So now I can kind of stand. So that's good. It's a good start.
That's a good start. But you didn't want
I'll
to
be more
stand for me,
careful with
though.
them.
You didn't want to stand
Don't
for me. You're just, I want to lay down for Danny. That's what you decided today.
That's pretty much. I can't sit. It hurts too much.
Right.
But yeah, I wouldn't recommend sitting on the floor and then like picking your kid up at the same time. I don't think that's a good idea.
Well, I
Should have
think
known better. Really.
one of the contributing factors is that your son he's a big boy.
He is. He is. He is. He seems to be getting bigger and bigger. I guess they go in phases though, right? Like they'll kind of stop and then they'll go in a big spurt. And
Yeah, I think your son's phases just keep growing.
yeah, he's just one giant spurt.
Because your son is, I want to say, what, he's like 7 months younger than, or 8 months younger than Emerson, our daughter. And I swear, like, he was 3 weeks old or whatever it was when we first met him, and he was almost as big as Emerson was, and she was over a year at that point.
Yeah, that was freaky to see. He's got a tiny head though, you know.
Does he?
The doctor they were like, okay, well here's in this percentile, like 90 percentile in height and 90 in weight and about 60 in head size. And after that, all I could look at was his head, just the size of it.
I don't think that means he has a small. If it was like 90, 90, and 1%, then I think
Yeah, and like
you would have
15.
cause to be concerned. He would look
Yeah,
like the end of Beetlejuice.
that's true. But then I started looking in the mirror at my head, and I realized, like, proportional to my body, it's like an average head, but on my body, maybe it looks a little tinier. I don't know. It's got me spinning over here.
Isn't that funny how somebody points something like that out to you? Like, our good friend Ryan, who some of the people watching out there may know, Ryan likes to point stuff like that out about people. Years ago, we were at the gym, and he looked at me. He goes, "Hey, everybody has one ear that sticks out a little bit further than the other." And he goes, "Do you want to know which one of yours sticks out further than the other?" I was like, "No, I don't
No,
want to know." He
no,
goes,
I don't.
"It." He
No, I
goes,
do
"It's
not.
it's the right one." And then of course I'm in a gym which is full of mirrors, and it's like everywhere I look, all I can see is the ear of mine that sticks out further than the other. But
You're
anyway,
just staring at it all the time.
but Cameron, I'm looking over at the comments that are coming in right now, and I feel like before we get too far down the road here with this conversation, I feel like you got a lot of like family that's here tuned in. You want to say hello to your family out there?
I do. Hi, Mom. Hi, Mike. Hi, Tess. Looks like my mom just posted that my brother has a small head also. They're well shaped, but yeah, they're not huge, really. His is a little pointier. Mine's well shaped, should say that.
Yeah.
I feel like every time I go to the pediatrician, it just feels like my kid's sort of a sack of meat. He just sees so many kids and he just measures them out, and then suddenly my kid's just a statistic. Our guy's also really loud. We might switch pediatricians. He comes into the room and is just like, "Hey, how you doing today?" Well, it's just this little tiny doctor's room, and the kid starts crying. So he probably thinks my kid's like a fussy kid, but my kid's very, very, very happy. You're just super loud, dude. You
But
just move
I
so
mean,
quick, so loudly.
if he came in and he was like super quiet, would that concern you? I feel like if a doctor comes into the room, they're like, "Hi," you immediately suspect that something's wrong, right?
That's true. That's true. He doesn't come in and be like, "So I'm really worried about your child." He's always up. But man,
That's
he
really
needs
funny.
to get a bigger room or like put some foam on the walls to cancel some sound out or something.
Right. So I have a little bone to pick with you, Cameron.
What's
I didn't
that?
tell you about this before we got on today. So you recently moved to a new place.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a FaceTime the other day because we're good friends and we talk all the time. And you gave me a tour around your new place, which is awesome and I love it. But one of the things you were really excited to show me was your garden in your backyard. And
Hmm.
when you first came over to my house after my wife and I moved in here, I wanted to show you my garden. And about 2 minutes into it, you're like, "I can't take this anymore. You're way too excited about this garden situation."
Ah,
And then I
I
love
remember that.
that the moment you move into a house with a garden, you want to take me out on FaceTime and show me your beautiful garden.
Well, I'd say I gave you about 10 minutes, and then my domestic cap hit for the day. You started talking about, legumes and their seasonal differences and what temperature to best keep a tomato garden at. And I said, all right, man, it's hit a cap for me. But it's funny you mention that because since having the kid, it's all I talk about, domestic stuff. You and I just talked about our 5G bandwidth, what routers are best. I even bought these tan colored screws for light switches, the light switch plate. I just felt like the harsh white screws were just kind of messing up the domestic feel. And so I bought a new light plate that was green, and I thought, oh, that's really soothing. But I think the white's not right, so I went just to Ace Hardware just for these tan screws. So yeah, I'm deep in there, man. I've got back pains. I've got Atticus Finch turtle shell glasses now.
Yeah, those are new.
Um,
I've never known you to have such a like 90s sitcom dad glasses sort of look about you.
yeah, this kind of old dad man glasses. Honestly, I had the thick black ones for so long that I got tired of them, and I also just kind of saw Ed Kemper in the mirror. And
Mm,
for a while, I was stubborn, like, these aren't your glasses. I had them before I knew you, fool. And then after a while, I just got sick of looking at a serial killer in the damn mirror. So
right.
So I got my dad glasses, and I think they suit me better. They're a little more positive. And again, it's always good as a dad to be reminded of Atticus Finch. So
Right.
it's good
One
good
of one of the
inspiration.
best one of the best dads in the history of literature.
Yeah, I just read that book again. He's
Yeah,
incredible. He's such a wonderful man.
I got to
He
read it.
knew
Well,
when to
let's.
talk to him and when not to. You know, it was cool.
Yeah, I think we can all learn from that. So the reason you're here on the Dad Diary today is obviously we're good friends. I would love to have you here in person, but obviously the way of the world currently doesn't enable us to do that. I wanted to ask you how is your quarantine going so far? How are you guys holding up over there?
You know, all in all, it's a pretty decent quarantine. We've had a good time. I mean, I've been Zooming with family more than ever. So Ben is getting to see his grandparents more, getting to see his aunt more and stuff like that. So that's been nice. And we do have a garden. And so it's nice to sit out in it. Um, we spend so much time together. And who doesn't see that as an opportunity, to be, how many times have we said, God, I wish it could just be me and the wife and our kid and just
Hmm.
get to be together. I know he loves it. If I go to the bathroom, he's ready to call child services. He's like, what parent leaves his child? Um, so that's been good. I'd say on the other side of it, it's important not to be a hero and to just always stay productive. We just moved, so we are putting the house together, so it gives us something to do, but at the same time, like, we need to make sure we get space from each other, and just
Hmm.
get alone time and recharge the batteries like that. And I think there's sometimes it feels like, okay, we were so productive before the quarantine, we want to keep doing that, but I think it's good to, like, just go somewhere and read a book. So
Yep.
I find it a good chance to start some new daily routines. I've lost 25 pounds this year.
Attaboy.
So this has been a great opportunity to keep dieting well, working out, things like that. So yeah,
That's great, man. It is
yeah,
interesting. I almost wonder, because you and I are obviously first time parents right now. My daughter just turned 18 months. Ben's what, coming up on a year here pretty soon, right?
yeah, May
Um,
6th.
and and I almost wonder if because we only have one kid and it's our first time through this, we've sort of got these like rose tinted glasses where, we're getting, we only have to worry about one kid chasing around the house. And, you see all these posts online from all these other parents who are just like losing their minds right now. And it's interesting because my perspective is on it, and I've talked about this on the Dad Diary before, is that, I'm trying to remind parents, of the time when their kids were young and when they had to go back to work and how they just wish that they had more time, like you were talking about, like all this precious time that you guys are getting together, you and Ben, you and your wife, your wife and Ben. And it's the same thing for us here at my house, is that like if this wasn't going on right now, I would only see Emerson for, maybe 30 minutes in the morning, and then maybe to read her a bedtime story if I can get home from the office, or if we're out in the field shooting, if I get home in time. I may not even get to see her some days. So I've been trying to remind parents of that, but I also have to remind myself that like my experience is a little bit easier currently than I think, other parents who have, two, three, four kids, running around the
Right.
house of
Oh
varying
yeah.
ages.
And if you have a kid who's 4 or older, they really understand what's happening to
Mm.
a degree of, this is different. This isn't what I'm used to, and that's certainly tricky. Um, Honestly, I wouldn't know what to do in that situation. I'm not there yet, but um, you know, you hope everybody's finding some positivity and some opportunity in this. I think, as far as dads go, I think there's dads like you and I that are in love with it, obsessed with it, and watch baby documentaries and stuff.
Mhm.
Um, my wife has been in a handful of mommy and me classes. I know some other gals who have well as well, and they they'll tell me that there's women in these classes, who start crying a bit.
Mm.
They'll just sort of vent that their husband doesn't do anything with the kid, doesn't know what to do with the kid, and this is their opportunity. to be
Yeah.
with their child and to connect with them and learn how to play with kids. I mean, I don't think it's every dad, but I think it's quite a handful who just, our instincts are different, you know. They did a study recently. They found that if a kid crawls away from a dad, he says come back at a further distance than a mom does,
Hmm.
because you know, a kid doesn't need the same parent, they need two different parents. And we typically raise kids a little differently, so it's hard to find our place at times, I think,
Hmm.
because we like to give them room to figure themselves out. We're not as great at just sitting and playing typically. I mean, again, you and I have worked with kids and stuff,
Hmm.
so we know a little different of an experience. But if you're stuck at home with 3 or 4 kids and you've never had much time with them, you know, this is a great chance.
I agree. It's made me realize, and I think you had an experience with this a few months back, and we can get into that in a few minutes here. But, for me, I've felt connected to Emerson, since day one. But I didn't realize how much of the bonding I was missing out on until this all happened. And starting a month
Mm.
ago, I was here 7 days a week, and just seeing how her and my relationship has grown and evolved over the last month has been incredible, and it moves me. Obviously, I'm no stranger to being emotional and getting choked up, and but it moves me, in the way just to think like, man, if I had been stuck at work like I normally am for the last month, I wouldn't have formed these bonds with her. Like a month ago, the week, everything really started getting crazy. That was the first day that Emerson walked on her own. And I've been able to be home and watch her explore, learning how to stand up and walk and sit down and then get back up on her own. And the reality is, I wouldn't have had that otherwise, So
Right.
I'm so incredibly grateful for it. And it's really woken me up, I think, to how important it is to continue to make time. And, I think we as, I can only speak from a male perspective, but I feel like for me, I tend to think I show my love and my care by going to work every day and putting in all those long hours to
Yeah.
make sure that
Yeah.
everything's safe here at home. But
Yeah.
through this time, I've realized that me being here physically and emotionally, like present with her in the moment, and her seeing my reaction to her big discoveries, is so much more important than that.
Yeah. Danny, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel the same way too. In fact, if there's been any struggle as a parent for me, it's not feeling intimidated by my wife. She's just born to do it, and she was a preschool teacher, and they have a connection. I mean, she comes in the room and he just lights up. And sometimes when I'm not out, I'm not working, I'm not providing. So I feel a little useless. I don't want
Mm.
to say useless, but I don't feel uh, like I'm too valuable. And I'll look at her and be intimidated by how great she is at this
Mm.
and how natural and the way he is when she's around. First,
Oh
it's
yeah.
just me and him at times, and I'll start comparing. But again, you know, kids need two different parents, not the same one. And also, I talked to her about it, and she feels the same. She feels like when she leaves, that he's better off. Like I'm the one that brings the light into the
Mm.
room. So part of it is just perspective and working on yourself, and that's been 11 months now of having a kid. I feel like I focus so much more on being my best me and working on a perspective that's positive and healthy, because if I'm going to be potentially this kid's hero
Mm.
or a role model at least, what kind of role model would I want my kid to have? You know,
Mm.
I don't want to be this, you know, lazy, you know, uh, overthinking sort of, you know, downer dude. Like that's not going to fly. And so I found I've just found that he's been such a blessing for that, for working on myself and making sure I feel valuable no matter what's going on.
Yeah.
And quarantine is a time for reflection. So, and a chance to show him the kind of guy he can be, and not to brag or anything, but he's pretty awesome. He's
He
real
is.
happy. Yeah,
I
he's
love
a
your
real
kid,
positive dude.
man, is just a ball of energy. Every time
Yeah.
I've been around him, every time I see him, he just always wants to go,
His
and I love
favorite
that about him.
activity is staring into a human's face and laughing at it. Like, let's both just laugh at each other's face. It's almost like
Yeah.
he's saying, "Isn't this awesome? Isn't this
Yeah.
all so awesome?"
It is. But it's
Yeah.
interesting that what you just said about how you watch your wife with Ben and how you see like this light in her and this light in him that comes out, and then you guys have talked about it and how she feels the same way when she sees you with him. And I think it's this sort of interesting, beautiful thing that I think that shows your child's personality. And I think that shows that you guys each connect with him in your own specific way. And I think that's the beauty. One of the coolest things that I've discovered, and I'm sure you've gone through this as well, since Emerson came around, especially as they start getting older and they start developing a personality and likes and dislikes, and they start trying to communicate with you, whether it's just through sounds or now that she's sort of babbling and figuring out words and pointing and all this sort of stuff. There are things that my wife understands that Emerson's trying to communicate that I am like, how did you even decipher that? But then at the same
Right.
time, I've found that like Emerson will be saying things, and my wife's like, do you want this or do you want that? And I go, no, 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 she wants this. And it's just this, and it totally makes sense because they are, equal parts, you know, one partner and equal parts the other.
Yeah. And they get older. I'd love to talk to people who have been parents for a long time about parenting and what they learned. In fact, I think respect your elders, that old saying, like, I've always kind of eye rolled at that. But I think what that means in some ways, I'm starting to understand that more as I ask people, you've been through this situation and what's it like? Um, I've sort of realized that respect your elders is just, it's understanding how much you've leaned on people who have been there already. And so one of the things I've asked some of these folks about is kids. I ask them quite a bit actually, and one of them told me, our friend Ken actually said that they'll come to you for different things. They'll come to one parent for one thing and one for another, and that's just sort of what naturally happens for them, which one supports them in this way or another. So I think you may find in certain parts of the day that you're best suited for one or the other, or times in their life. There may be ages, say, where Ben goes, wow, I gotta pick up on what Dad's putting down, or there'll be another time he gets a little older and he'll need Mom's support with something. So I'm really excited about that journey. I'm excited about that part of it. We're not right now. It's just play. I mean, he's 11 months old. We can hold him as much as we want. We've read the books. There's no behavioral issues from holding them too long right now. We can play with him as much as we want, be as silly as we want, help him express himself as much as we want. So we do, and it inspires us to do that more, to be positive forward and put energy out there. I find that I love Danielle more than I ever have. That she's just incredible. Like, especially now that I'm home. Like, I'd be gone, I'd work, and she'd be home with the kid and be tired at the end of the day, which is understandable. But now I see what she's talking about. I see her just all day handling mom duties that are they're never ending and they're every day. And I'm thinking I should do something for her. I don't know what it is. I think I'd like to get up first for a while. I'm a late night guy, so I'd like to get to bed early and get up first and let her sleep in. And we got an instant pot, so maybe I can start doing some pressure cooking. You can cook a potato in like 4 minutes in those things.
Yeah, we have one
So,
too. I haven't messed with it yet.
dude, we took a corned beef, $16. It was like 4 pounds from Costco. We
Yeah.
dumped it in there, and then later we put in cabbage and potatoes and one bottle of Guinness and then some beef broth. It was like the best thing I've ever had. It was like a $20 meal. It lasts us 3 days. It's the best thing definitely best corned beef I've ever had.
That's
It was
amazing.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I see it, and I can see it from where I'm sitting right now because it's on this sort of extra rack in the kitchen area, and I'm like, oh, I should do that as well. But you touch on something really valid, is that, what I've realized over the last month since I've been home is just like you said, like how it, especially when they get to 11 months and 18 months in Emerson's case where she's running all over the place now. It's like the moment they wake up until, I mean, there's, you get a little 2 hour little respite in the middle where they're napping, but in that time it's like you got to shower, you got to work out, all the things
Yeah,
you
yeah.
that's your time to get other stuff done. And then they're up, and then you're with them, chasing them around until they go to bed, 6, 7 o'clock, whatever their bedtime might be. And you're right. Like I've realized, my wife, she has a couple days off in the middle of the week that like she's here with Emerson. And I always think, oh man, she's lucky she gets a couple days off from work. But then seeing everything that goes into those quote unquote days off is insane. Like it does not stop. You're just going all day long. And like you said, I loved my wife incredibly before all of this, but seeing her become a mom, and then especially over the last month, just seeing everything that she does, not just for Emerson, but for me, like the fact that she cooks me dinner almost every night on top of everything that she does for Emerson, it's just like, how could you ever, question the way that somebody feels about you? You just see how much they give.
I
Um,
know.
but it's incredible, and that's why I'm so thankful for this time because, as in what we do, we're both in the same industry, and when you're working on something, you're investing yourself in such a huge way into that project. You in front of the camera, me behind the camera, and you don't realize maybe how you're not fully there, for those that you love the most and love you the most. And this time has really reminded me of that. And
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it.
Because we're working and she's working too, but the difference is that incredible abundance of love, at least coming from Danielle, that it just never stops. It's just constant. It's so big, and it makes me want to bring like all of myself, all of my love, all of my loving to my work,
Mm,
moving forward to my relationships. Just I think I think it's what gives her more energy and more
mm.
consistency and strength is that she just lets it all out and gives everything to these kids. Um, our friend Adam just texted that he's watching us.
Oh, what's up, Adam? I
Yeah,
didn't, I didn't,
it
I had Adam on the Dad Diary a few months back, right before
did you?
their daughter.
Oh,
Oh, you watched that episode, right?
I did. That's right.
Okay, good, good, good.
That's right. Yeah,
Because you just acted like you had no clue that he ever came on this show.
I remember you guys talked, and he had a lot of fears.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
maybe
now
he's
look at
picked
us.
up some things or two. His wife is way better than he is, so maybe
I
she's taught
wish
him
I
a thing
wish
or
he
two.
could comment right now, but Adam's not a Facebook guy, so he
Mm-mm,
can't
he
contribute to
doesn't
this
have it.
conversation. But we love you,
No.
Adam. Kai's beautiful. She looks incredible. Hope you're having fun with the roof they're putting on your place right in the middle of quarantine.
Mhm.
Um, did you see that? It's incredible. What fun timing.
Yeah.
So you talk about like putting more love into your work. A lot of people who are watching this, whether they be friends or family or just casual viewers, they know you from your incredible work on Mindhunter, on Umbrella Academy, on Netflix, most recently on Manhunt, for Spectrum and Lionsgate. Uh, you are known to play a lot of dramatic characters. Like that's what you're most known for of late. This is two things I want to get into about your career. Is one, when are you going to play a funny character? Because you are one of the funniest people that I know. And at one point, I don't know how many people know this, but you were working on a stand-up career at one point in time. Do you remember that when you would do
Yeah,
stand-up?
I mean, I moved out here to be, Jim Carrey or Chris Farley or Will Ferrell, and then I just got tired, you know.
You got tired of what? Being funny or what?
Comedy just takes too much energy. No, I don't know about stand up. I know some folks have asked when I'm going to do some more of that, and I do think about it occasionally. Um, I don't know. I feel like since I've started looking at my career in a different way, and looking at acting in a different way, that it's something that you you don't want to make a performance, you want to make a person.
Hmm.
It's hard to reconcile that with comedy for me right now. Like, I watch comedy and I crack up, but when I look at a page and think about it, I think, well, that's not realistic. People don't do that, But if I think of some of the, like, Sean Penn as Jeff Spicoli in Fast Times at Ridgemont High, where he
Hmm.
completely immersed himself in this character who happened to be really funny if you watch him, but he still felt like a real person. That I think I could do. I'd like to get there and do something like that. But for some reason, comedy just started scaring me. I just go further and further towards drama. I feel like when something's funny, the second time you deliver that line, it's that moment's gone. So if there's improv involved, then that helps. But I don't know. Maybe one day. I'm sure. Sure, at some point I'll try it. Try to be
I hope
funny again.
so. Because you told one of my favorite jokes of all time, and it was at my expense years ago. Do you remember
I
that?
remember that joke. I
I
do.
wanted to pull up the video and get it on here, but it's on my old computer, and I couldn't get it uploaded in time. But in short, I'll paint the picture, and if you remember how the joke goes, you can finish it off. But it was a friend of ours. I think it was his 30th birthday years ago. In true him fashion, he wanted to have a roast for his birthday, and not just a roast, but he wanted everyone to be dressed up like gods and goddesses. Zeus and Loki and all these various people, because that's just who he is. And so as part of the roast, a bunch of friends got up there, and our buddy Adam and his bandmate Sean, who were in a comic band called The Show, they sang a song for John. But you got up and roasted John. But in true roasting fashion, you also roasted other people that were there as well, and you roasted me with one line and one line alone. I don't know if you remember it, but it's etched in my soul.
Is it the BlackBerry one?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Do you remember it?
If Danny loves his
Hey, Danny,
BlackBerry
if you love
so
your
much,
BlackBerry so much,
why, why don't you propose to it and then call the wedding off once it buys its dress?
that's exactly the joke.
Like that,
Nailed it. But it worked out, honestly, it worked out well because I met Lynn and we have Emerson, and this definitely would not be happening right now if it had gone the other direction.
Well, we we can go tit for tat on that for sure. There's been some
Yeah.
girls that I'm glad that fell through. Put it
But
that
isn't that
way.
incredible? I was talking to, I recorded an actual in-person episode of the Dad Diary, which I'll be posting shortly with Chelsea Reese's husband, Rhett. And, we were just talking about life and having kids. Um, and it's interesting because you think like your whole life, it's like the story of your life that's being written, right? And then you have a kid and you realize that all these ups and downs and wins and losses and sadness and joy, like it was writing the story of your child's life.
Oh, absolutely.
Isn't that
Yeah,
crazy?
it is. I mean, I wouldn't be the husband and father I am without taking all these paths. I mean, I think about you. And by the way, I would never say that joke again. Maybe that's why I don't do comedy anymore, because it's just
It was a
harsh.
good joke.
Ah, I every time I think of a joke, I just go, well, that's gonna hurt someone's feelings, and I just don't do it anymore.
You're such
But
a dad, man.
I know I've seen you walk down so many paths, and in your 20s, that can look strange to people. People can go, wow, first he's a host, and then he's you were working at going for the boy band. You were going for a lot of different things. You're a businessman in New York for a while, and I've done the same. I was going towards occupational therapy and preschool teaching, and not just that, then just a path of work, like philosophies, perspectives on life, directions to go. Um, that can look weird to folks, but I feel like in the end, once you're down the road and a little older, all of that path walking, all those not going in a straight line, trying different things, experiencing different things. I was homeless for a while by choice. I lived with my mom in Nashville and did a bunch of different stuff it's made me a richer person with more experiences, you know?
Right. I mean,
Sort
we
of
are who
interesting.
we are because of all those roads that we traveled down. And you and I were talking about this recently about, life and so on. And you and I, are familiar with this because we're in an industry that, is doesn't have a lot of guarantees, when you set out on this road to make it, and you sort of see it as this mountain that you're constantly climbing to get to the peak, and then you get to the peak where you're Emmy nominated and on these, wildly successful shows and critically acclaimed in your case. And then, for me, like working on all these really well-known, TV shows, and you get to that top of that mountain, and then you look out and you realize like there's just a lot of other tops of mountains in the distance.
Absolutely. All I thought I'd ever care about was my acting career first. And then Ben happened. And now it's like, oh, cool. Like, I'm an actor. That's also something I am.
Yeah. But it's
Um,
not who you are.
no, what you do isn't who you are. Um, it's it's my kid in so many ways. One of my friends, Lena Del Preti, just asked me to say a dad joke.
Oh yeah, let me hold on. Let me go
Um,
back. I can add that. I can add that to the broadcast. Look at that.
there it is.
Look at
Here's my
this.
dad joke from this morning. My back isn't good, so I'm laying on my back on the floor, and I have this big toy airplane that I fly around like and spin around for Ben, and he'll just stare at it. Then he takes this little airplane and he does the same thing, and he makes sounds and everything. He's starting to mimic, and then sometimes if that little airplane's not available, he'll pick up like a rattle and do the same sound. And today he picked up my cell phone and started flying it around the room.
Yeah.
And I said, so you can use my cell phone. It's in airplane mode. And I looked at my
That's
wife like,
brilliant.
oh, it's my first dad joke in a while. And she said, yes, yes. Like she won't pay it, but I'm so proud of it. They do come out, man.
That's
They just,
strong, man.
yeah, it was a good one.
I
It's
really
right
like
there,
that.
man.
I
It's a
would have
gift.
laughed had I been there in the moment, and I laughed right now because it was funny. I had one the other day, and unfortunately, I didn't really get to say it to anybody because I was alone washing dishes in the kitchen when it hit me. Um, so I posted it on Facebook instead because I was like, people need to hear this joke. It's funny. Uh, because I'm really into puns. Like I'm sure you know that about me all too well. And I was listening to, I don't know, classical music, which then became Baroque music. Um, and I was listening to Baroque music. I was like, man, I love Baroque music. I haven't thought about that in a while. I love the harpsichord. I think it's very soothing, and it's just, I don't know. I think of like the elegance of the time and people inside old, castles and whatnot. Uh, but I realized the problem with Baroque music is that it quickly sent me down this rabbit hole of puns. And then of course I said to myself in the kitchen, I was like, well, if it ain't Baroque, don't fix it,
That's exactly what I'm
yeah.
thinking right now. If it ain't Baroque, don't think fix it.
And it's
You
just,
got
and
to
I was
go
like,
for
oh
Baroque,
man,
man.
the Baroque's the jam. It's so good. Viewers out there, if you're not listening to Baroque music, I don't know what's
Hmm.
wrong with you.
Yeah, go for
Um,
Baroque, guys.
oh, there it is. I love it. I love it. So I wanted to chat a little bit with you because I know we've been on here for a while, 45 minutes. I'll let you jump here soon because I'm sure you got a kid to go take care of. But wanted to chat about one thing in particular, and I sort of alluded to this earlier, was, the time when you were on the road doing Manhunt.
Oof.
And that happened. That was wild. I mean, obviously, incredible opportunity for you to go out and, do that show and work with Judith Light and everybody else who was associated with that production. But that was like you left what 3-4 weeks after Ben was born. Is that right?
Yeah, so as not to confuse some people, Mindhunter is the serial killer show. Manhunt is the show where I played the fella who was accused for a bomb
Right.
in the Olympics in the '90s. True story. Yeah, so I took that part, and Ben was born um, a week later, and then I had about 4 weeks with him, and then I flew out and went to Pittsburgh and had to really just be there shooting so much. And newborns, it's best not to put them on an airplane for about 6 weeks or so. So I didn't get to see him. I saw him for 4 weeks of his first 4 weeks of his life, and then I missed the next six.
Hmm.
um Acting's already hard and stressful enough, and then to have only 5 weeks to prepare a role is no fun. To have that short of time when you're a new dad is no fun for sure. I had a Georgian accent and I was singing Rockabye Baby to him, like just doing what I could to be a dad and be an employee, an actor, character, and all that. So it was not a great time. Uh, when he was in the womb, I sang to him a lot. In fact, I was the first. I received him as he uh, as my wife gave birth to him, and I put him on her chest. I cut the umbilical cord. We took him to this little incubator. He had fluid in his lungs and stuff, so we had to put not we, the nurses put a tube down into his lungs to get that fluid out. And I was singing to him. He's just born, and I wanted him to hear this voice that he's been hearing in the womb. And he's crying, And I sang, and he's no joke. He's 30 seconds old, and he stopped crying, and it was so heartwarming. And then the nurse said, "Don't sing. He needs to cry. We need to get this stuff out of his lungs." So I had to stop and start crying again, which was kind of weird. But sure enough, when I moved out to Pittsburgh for those 6 weeks, he would be crying over the phone, and I could sing to him, and he'd stop, and felt like I was still there just a little bit. So I recorded some of the songs, and Danny could play them on a loop. I don't have a great voice, but it worked for him. He loves her voice more now that he's gotten older and hasn't a taste for vocals. The songs I really only sing him to go to bed are "Don't Worry About a Thing," Three Little Birds, Bob Marley, and "Don't Worry, Be Happy." So it's a couple like little mellow reggae, and they seem to work. Anything else I sing, he can't stand it. So yeah, it was tricky. But then he came out, and what we found in Pittsburgh for 4 months living out there was that when I wasn't working, I would have a week or so off or more sometimes. That we were like in a house, and we were looking over the hills, and so we could see for miles. We had all kinds of animals around us, all kinds of nature, and it really inspired us to live in an area with nature. And we actually found a house with a backyard, and now we put a bird seed feeder thing outside his play window so he can watch birds eat. And it's right there, except squirrels showed up, so they're trying to eat all the bird seed. And then he yells at the squirrel. I actually have a video I can send you of him yelling at the squirrel and it just stopping and staring and them just kind of locking eyes for a while. It's pretty funny. But he's got plenty of nature. He's got plenty of crawling room in the grass and everything. So Pittsburgh was a benefit to that, to really sort of try that. You know, it was nice to be in a house and experience all that, and to have, I mean, aside from those 6 weeks, you know, we spent 4 months almost entirely us three, just together with nothing else to do, but just be together. And we watched him. I pulled the videos out recently. It's a trip. I mean, he's only what, 6 months older now, but it's like a different kid. This dude in the video is just trying to pull his head up. You know, he's got that kind of like stuck young baby face where his eyes are just kind of bugging. How proud we were that he would start figuring out how to like reach his hand out and hold something. And, you know, he's come a long way since then. And again, I feel like I can't remember life before him. It hasn't even been a year.
Right.
But he's just come so far. It's incredible.
Would you say that that time that you had in Pittsburgh for Manhunt, would you say that those first like 4 weeks that you're talking about compared to that, or the 6 weeks compared to the 4 months, would you say that they impacted you equally and have really led you to sort of where you're at now as a dad and how present you want to be? Because I remember seeing you when you came, you had a little break, I think, at one point during filming, and it was right at the end of when you'd been away for that first batch of time. And I remember it was having an effect on you. And then they went back with you at that point. So do you think being away from them for that long is sort of what laid the foundation for really taking in and being thankful for those 4 months that they were there? And how have you sort of taken that back into everyday life now?
Yeah, I mean, that experience, I mean, I'm following my dream, right? I'm getting to be a lead of a TV show, but it was a very dark character, had a lot of homesickness. Wasn't taking good care of myself. I was trying to gain weight for the role, so I was really eating poorly. And I got pretty miserable. And I kept thinking, you know, 3 more weeks, 2 more weeks, 1 more week. Like I'll see them. I won't be homesick. I'll get to go home, and then I'll have them out here. I'll be better. And I got them out there, and I wasn't all that much better. And I think the new career shift and the sun and everything was so much change, and it was messing with me a bit. I've never really been lower than that time out there, even with them both there. And it was such a wake-up call for me of, like, this can't happen. This is the best time of my life, and I need to take much better care of myself. So, you know, marijuana and drinking marijuana's completely out. Drinking is maybe once in a while, but I don't like it like I used to, you know. And I'm seeing a therapist. I took a couple seminars to better myself and just started focusing on positivity for my kid. And we were talking earlier about how a lot informs who we are. I think last year it's a new chapter in my life, a realization fully of I've been in this great direction, but there's things I still needed to work on, and I got kind of mired down in them, and then started focusing on pulling myself out. And I owe a lot of that to Ben. You know, the results are bigger, the stakes are higher with a kid to take better care of yourself. And I hope to share that with him someday. I hope to talk about depression and about no matter what's going on in your life, these feelings can come. And how instrumental he was in me improving on my own self-worth, on my own belief in myself. So it was a very, very valuable, reflective time that has only been better since we got back to LA. And I'll figure this homesickness thing out. I'll keep traveling and shooting on the road. And one day, maybe I'll start flying back more often, something like that. I'll figure something out. Because I didn't know I had homesickness. I didn't know that was a thing I'd be dealing with much.
Was that something you felt before Ben came along?
Yeah, when I did Umbrella Academy and Girl in the Spider's Web. Yeah, definitely. But I think I was spending that time like, oh, I'm by myself. I'll do bachelor stuff. I'll just play video games, stay up late, eat pizza, and imbibe. And these things just don't work for me anymore. I mean, they were fun in my 20s, but that I'd also like to be able to share with him. Conversations about, he's going to be a teenager one day. He's going to want to talk about drugs and alcohol, and I'd like to share with him my experiences honestly. I don't think there's a conversation that you can't have with a kid. No matter what age, you can find a way to discuss or phrase something. So I don't know. It was hard, but it's all good in the end.
Right. No, I think you have an incredible perspective on it. I think the fact that you are so candid and so honest right now, in this setting is incredible, because I'm sure there are people, watching who will see this video, down the line, where I think it will encourage them, whatever they may be, going through, in their life or challenges. I think a lot of people assume, whatever your dream is in life, that you make it to this pinnacle and that there aren't any challenges anymore. But, life still happens and things are still challenging. And I think, most importantly, what I take away from what you just shared is that, like you said, you have all this experience that you can and will share with Ben and any other future kids you guys may have. And I think that's incredible, because I think, kids are smart, and they're very intuitive, and they just want you to be real with them, whether that's when they're a kid, right now, where they don't understand, what we were just discussing. They just want you to be present in the moment. But as they get older and they mature, I think they just want you to be honest with them. And I think the more honest you can be with your kids about, difficult times that we went through, or things that didn't work out, or things that we struggled with, or things that we tried and, impacted us one way or another. I think that honesty builds their trust in you. They're not going to be disappointed in you being honest about who you were at one point in your life. So I think that's incredible, and it's inspiring, and it's the approach that I plan to take with Emerson as well.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad to hear that. I think that communication, especially in a family, it's just the most important thing in the world. And I intend to inspire Ben, especially as a male, to communicate, talk about your feelings. I think it's important as I sit in my bed and kick my feet up, just to talk about your feelings and share what happened. One great thing my therapist said was, because I was kind of talking to him about my wife and about, like, I don't want to. I want to be as awesome at parenting as she is, And he said, "Well, you're going to make mistakes, and it's our faults that bring us closer together, and that kids don't. What kid would want two perfect parents? What experience would that be? That would be intense. What you're hoping for is to show your kid what you
Mm-hmm.
are after you make a mistake, after you have a fault, how you deal with that, how you communicate with them through your apology or whatever it is, that's going to inform them a lot on how the world works and what the world can be and what their parent is. And seeing their parent as imperfect is so valuable. I've been hearing more and more about that faults are actually what bring us closer together. And I want to read up on it more. I want to understand that more because it's something that sounds like it makes sense, but I can focus on hiding my faults so much. And I do my best not to judge others for their faults, but I can get stuck on them. And I don't know, it's an interesting one because our kids are going to have faults. And I'd like to, Einstein said if you can't explain something simply, you don't understand it well enough yet. And so whenever I find I'm sort of rambling about something like faults, that I got some more learning to do. I can pick up maybe someone made a meme somewhere. I can learn it.
I mean, memes are the answers to all the world's greatest questions and queries. I have
It's
found.
fast food psychology, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well,
It's
I
like
love my memes and my gifts.
they wouldn't even have made Frasier if memes were invented because you don't need to call in for psychology anymore and have a conversation with Frasier Crane. You just read a meme and move on.
Right.
But no, I'd like to learn more about faults and how they bring us closer together. It's an interesting idea.
I think it's true though, because faults are something that we all have in common. We may not have the exact same faults, but
Mm-mm.
nobody is perfect. And, we are always our harshest critic. And maybe we wouldn't be so hard on ourselves if more people were honest with each other about their own faults, and the things that they're scared of and the things that are challenging for them. I think maybe one of the reasons we are so hard on ourselves sometimes is because, especially nowadays with, social media and for the most part, going on Instagram and Facebook and just seeing sort of these highlight reel moments of people's lives and them talking about the vacation they went on or the kid that they had. You don't oftentimes hear the story about the kid they lost, or the vacation that got canceled or whatever it might be. And I mean, that was a huge motivating factor for starting the Dad Diary in the first place, was to be honest with people and to share our journey that we went through that you're so familiar with. And I've talked about ad nauseum on here with in vitro and and then Emerson's limb difference, and it's why I chat with people like you and Adam and Rhett and my friend Patrick and all these people, and why I wanted to do interviews on this show is that I think us getting on here, whether it's dad to dad or dad to mom or whatever it might be, is we realize some of the faults, that we have or had and how we've sort of worked through them and realize that we've all got our own things going on. And I appreciate you being so candid and so honest. I think it's a huge breath of fresh air, in the world today. So, and I love you.
I love you too. Thank
Thanks,
you,
Dan.
Danny.
We've been on for
Yeah.
over an hour now, and we've somehow maintained 12 viewers at this 13. We just got another one.
Wow.
Another one just popped on. Hopefully, they didn't come on, and now they're going to hear me wrap up the show. That'd be really disappointing.
Let's pretend we were just so funny. Oh
That was
man, if
literally
you
an
missed
hour and
that
3 minutes
joke,
of comedy. It was just straight
you know.
comedy,
Oh my.
improv, some of the best.
Oh.
It was like Robin Williams and Michael Scott going head to head here.
They're gonna watch the whole video. Like, when does it get funny? And then it's gonna
It's
get like
coming.
emotional. And they're gonna find out. Wait a second.
There was no comedy whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think this must be the person, Jess Sandwick. I don't know if you know this person, but I'll add her to the broadcast here.
Hi, Jess.
Do you know Jess?
I don't know.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't
hi,
know if I
Jess.
know Jess.
Jess is getting a shout out. We haven't been shouting out hardly
You
anybody
don't know
here.
Jess?
I mean, no. But let's give a quick shout out to everybody
Sandvik.
who commented. We got Tessa and Michael and Juliana and Jerry and another Michael. That's my stepdad. Uh, who else? Caroline. Who else do we have here? Lena, Zoe, another Caroline again. Man, we had a lot of people commenting here.
Awesome. That's
And
so
Jess.
beautiful.
And then we got Janet.
Janet? Hi,
Yeah, Janet.
Janet.
Janet Melbourne. How you doing, Janet? Everyone's saying hi now. Hey,
And there's
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse, what's
Wow.
up?
Hi,
If you are watching,
everybody.
just drop a little comment. Say hello to us before we say goodbye to you.
Yeah. Oh, it's good to see everybody. Hello. I
Oh, hey,
just.
my
Oh.
sister's here.
Hey, Aaron.
Erin, what's
What's
up?
up?
She didn't just say hello. She said hello.
One of my favorite Beatles fans in the whole world.
Aw. Oh, my dad just said funniest hour I've had all day.
Good.
Good.
Glad to
I'm glad.
hear.
I'm glad we could provide you that entertainment, Michael.
Yeah, my
Um,
dad, nowhere to be found. So that's sort of
no,
interesting.
yikes. We'll save that for the next live stream. My mom just said loved this. What I love is that my mom and dad were probably watching it in the same house, either in the same room or down the hallway from each other.
Nice. Nice.
That's
That's great.
dedication.
It
Anyway,
is.
it's after 5 o'clock, which means it's time for Emerson's dinner, which means I need to wrap this up so my wife can come back inside the house. Hey, my other sister's here, Nicole.
Wow.
Hey, this is fun. It's a
We
big family
are
affair.
we are just going. This is
We
great.
are,
Next time we'll
and
have everybody on. It'll be one giant meeting.
yeah, I can't wait. Well, Cameron, you know I love you. Like I said earlier, I appreciate you taking the time out of your incredibly busy quarantine schedule to join me here on the Dad Diary. Michael wants to know what's for dinner. That would be a question for my wife. I'm guessing it's probably macaroni and cheese,
Michael
if I
is
had to
my
take a guess.
stepfather from Nashville,
Oh,
and
cool.
he he loves him some dinner. He makes
Was he
some
there when you ate
incredible
the
food.
whole? Was he there when you
Mike,
ate
you
the
should
whole
put your
carton of?
recipes, your fried chicken recipe on here.
Cameron, I have an
Teaching
important question.
Californians
I
how
have
to
an
do
important
this up
question
right.
before we wrap this up, Cameron.
What's that?
Was Michael there when you ate the carton of ice cream?
He was downstairs sleeping.
Wow.
He was downstairs sleeping. That was way past their bedtime.
We'll share that story on the next episode, live episode of the Dad Diary.
Okay, or not.
Or not. Anyway, love you, Cam.
Love
Great
you too,
chatting with
man.
you. Thanks for joining me here on the Dad Diary. Cameron, do you know how we wrap up every episode of the Dad Diary?
No.
We do it with peace and love. I mean, you know that because you watch every episode, but I'm glad that I could remind you.
Every
Uh,
episode.
we got to go.
Do you know
Thanks for
how we
joining
wrap
us.
up Manhunt season 2?
I don't, but I would love for you to spoil it, but we won't. Anyway,
I
you
don't
know
know.
how we.
I never really watched it.
Oh,
Good.
good to
All
know.
right, man. Peace and love.
Love you so much. Let's send it off as we always do on the Dad Diary with peace and love. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you don't already follow the Dad Diary, do it right now here on Facebook, over on Instagram at the Dad. Let's try that again. That's my only flub of the show. Follow me on Instagram at the Dad Diary. Make sure to check out Cameron. You're all sitting at home anyway, so go on to Netflix, go on to Spectrum Streaming, watch Manhunt. Go check him out on Mindhunter if you haven't done that already. Make sure you check him out on Umbrella Academy and all the other myriad of amazing things that Cameron has done. Thanks, Cam, for joining me. We'll see y'all real soon.
Thanks, Danny.